Hey everyone, this episode of Fall Obsession Podcast is brought to you guys in partnership with Hoot Camo, Bear River Archery, Tacticam Reveal, and the Outdoor Call Radio app. If you guys want to check out some discount codes that some of these partners have for our Fall Obsession Podcast listeners, then go to the episode description wherever you are tuning in from, and you will find those discount codes listed there for you guys. Be sure that you guys are following the show, subscribe to our Fall Obsession YouTube channel. Give us a follow and a like on social media. We always appreciate that quick way that you can show some support for Fall Obsession. Thank you. I'm your show host, Sam Thrash, and this week my guest is Miss Kayla Harrod. Enjoy the episode, guys. Y'all are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
The power lies within that middle ground.
Hunting transformed my life.
I think you have to be built somewhat different.
That Dale Brisby's a super puncher.
We need to get Pop-Tarts on the next Walmart order. I'm serious.
Because to come into this country and stay dedicated to that, it was pretty awesome.
If it's only for one, then you've done your job.
We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your host over here, and my guest this week is first-time guest joining us on the show, Miss Kayla Harrod. Welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast, Kayla.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Happy to have you. Been looking forward to this conversation and everything. And we are live on YouTube right now as well. This is a live show. So for anybody that is tuning in that regard, you are welcome to engage in the chat section, ask questions, or whatever you'd like to throw out there. We will be monitoring that throughout the episode. Kayla, to get things started, just for our listeners who don't know who you are, give us a little bit of background on where you're from, what you do, and how you got into hunting.
Okay. Like you said, my name's Kayla. I'm from Arkansas. I started hunting. It's hard to say. My dad put me in a backpack when I was around the age of 2, I think was the first time I went, quote, hunting with him. He was really good about including me. He was the youngest of 4 boys, and here I am, his first child, a girl. And he just introduced me to everything that he loved. And if it was something I enjoyed, I just kept going. And hunting and archery was something that stuck. So something I really have tried to also incorporate raising my kids. I have 3 kiddos, ages almost 3 up to 19. I'm married. My husband is big into the outdoors and hunting, really good bow hunter himself. When we were dating, we duck hunted a lot too. So yeah, I work as a nurse practitioner in more of like the non-traditional setting of medicine. I have a great job where I can schedule my patients around my season. So
awesome. Now, this is just pure curiosity. This doesn't really have anything to do with hunting, but when you say non-traditional side of medicine, what do you mean by that?
So I focus more on how to keep you off of medications.
Okay.
How to keep you active and give you longevity, because I don't think that having to go to the pharmacy every month is something that keeps you well.
Yeah, it's not as sustainable, maybe perhaps in a certain regard. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a temporary fix to a long-term problem. So
exactly. Yeah. My nursing background. So I've been in healthcare as a nurse for about 11 years. 5 of that, I was an ER nurse, and I watched people from all types of illnesses, chronic illnesses, come into the ER, and especially like diabetes, and leads to all kinds of health issues. So trying to help prevent people from having those issues so that they can enjoy their life. Too many times we're just, you're given a diagnosis and there's no education behind it of how to reverse it, because you don't want to live with that diagnosis forever.
Right. Well, that's awesome. You and my wife would probably get along in that regard. That's right up her alley. She's big on all that kind of stuff as well. So very cool. going back to hunting, and I mean, we are a hunting show. My listeners know that I get off on so many rabbit trails frequently on this, and typically talk about non-hunting stuff. But we'll save that for when the time comes, I guess. Anyway, you mentioned kind of when you were giving your background on hunting and everything, archery was in there pretty early.
Hmm.
Am I right in my how I picked up on that as far as archery becoming something that you've been doing for a long time?
Yes, I've had a bow since I could walk. I have pictures and videos of being in the yard with my dad, and practicing with like a little recurve, and um, I I've always have had a bow since I was little bitty. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Very cool. So what and just the archery side of me, you've piqued my interest with that, but what at what point were you able to actually start bow hunting? Because obviously hunting has been a staple in your life from the very beginning. It's a part of your identity. But at what point were you actually out there in the woods archery hunting and not just,
yeah.
using one in the backyard, target practicing and that kind of stuff?
That's a good question. So, as a teenager, I did shooting sports through 4-H. I did some competitions, and I had a love-hate relationship for that because most of the time you're competing, it's super hot, and it wasn't my favorite. I became a mom really early in life, and I didn't start bow hunting until I was in my early 20s, actually. Um, my very first two deer that I harvested with my bow were actually, I think I was around 22-ish.
Hmm.
It was in the exact same hunt. I had two does come in to a corn feeder, and I shot one. And my very first compound was a PSE. And I'm pretty sure my draw weight was probably like 40 pounds. And I just remember that watching the arrow, you know, I was like,
A
I
big
smoked it.
arc.
My brother was probably about 200 yards to my right, hanging off of a ridge, and he saw it. And what I don't know, something kicked in, and I did a doe bleat, and they both ran off. And after I bleated, the second one came back, and I smoked her too. And I was on cloud nine, and it was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like, I love this. This is way better than, sitting in a quote shooting house and the deer being hundreds of yards away. Like
Oh yeah.
this, I love this. So
Yeah.
that's when I got like, okay, I'm, this is where it's at.
Yeah. No, I agree. I did not grow up bow hunting. I've hunted like my dad's always been a hunter, and I hunted with him since a young age. But his bow hunting days were before me even, and very short lived. So I grew up rifle hunting and just didn't know anything else. I'd watch all the Realtree Monster Buck VHS tapes and everything, and see all these guys bow hunt. I was like, man, that's cool. I'd like to do that one day and everything. And um, long story short, finally was able to get into it and had a similar experience as far as, you're in there, you're close quarters. Like I feel like everything as a hunter that you are having to be mindful of is just at a heightened level,
Hmm.
when you're in there close archery hunting and everything. And, I have a plenty of respect for like rifle hunting and especially long range shooting and everything. And I've since gotten into long range archery as well, but it's just there's nothing like it. Like nothing can
Mm.
compare to it, in my
Oh,
opinion.
for
It's
sure.
it's it's amazing. So that's awesome. So, what what are some of those memorable moments kind of growing up that you've had with your family and everything, as somebody who has been in hunting in the outdoors their entire life?
Um, that's a hard one. I have so many.
That's a good
Um,
problem.
yeah, yeah. I remember what we didn't have but one property that we could hunt growing
Mhm.
up. And there was a time that people that were also hunting it and hunting around it, they would shoot anything and everything. And the population was really poor. And I had several seasons where you would see maybe a handful of deer and usually doe. Um, the first time I shot a buck was very memorable for me. It was with a muzzleloader. I think I was around 11, 10 or 11, and it was a non-typical 6 point, and it was a tiny little thing. And I remember I was so proud, but my dad was so proud. He when Wednesday night church came, he went ahead and like wrapped part of the skull, like he cut the horns off, wrapped part of the skull in a some cloth so I could show everybody at church. And I just remember being so proud of that. That's probably one of my fondest memories.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't get to hunt a lot either when I became a mom so young, and I was not I kind of got gun shy because I'd gotten away from it for a while, and I
Mhm.
missed a couple of deer in a row. And we were on a permit hunt. You had to shoot a doe before you could shoot a buck. And I was hunting with my dad, but he was probably about 40 yards behind me, and a doe stepped out. And I remember just like, okay, we got to get back in this. Click the safety off, and I smoked her. And I was like, okay, I didn't lose it. I didn't lose it. I'm back in, back in
Still
this.
got it. Yeah.
So yeah, those two things really stick out in my mind as far as like, you know, getting locked into it and kind of having that like, okay, proud moment. I'm back in. I
Yeah.
got this.
Awesome. That's very cool. So I do want to ask you kind of a little bit, if I can boil it down to one topic, I guess it would be something to do with balance, if you will, just balance in life and everything, because you've referenced your family multiple times and being a mom and everything like that. So you've also talked about archery hunting, you talked about deer hunting, you've referenced waterfowl. So when hunting season rolls around, and I'm sure that there's plenty listening that wonder this either for themselves or for their spouse, is how do you prioritize and stay involved and stay present where you need to be?
That's a good question. With my husband also liking to hunt, people be like, "Your wife mobile hunts and she shoots a bow, but that's awesome." And he's like, "It is until it's my turn to watch the kids, and she's the one going, and I'm not." So we have an understanding between the two of us that you know, we both love it. We both get the time. My
Mhm.
parents are really good about helping us have that time. If it's we go ahead and we plan ahead, like, okay, this week or this weekend, we know like that's when bow hunting is optimal for where we like to go. Will you please mark on your calendar to help us with the kids? I take off ahead of time as far as like work wise with my patients, because as a healthcare provider, I know you're using your lunch break or your PTO to come and see me, and I want to make sure that you plan ahead of time, and I'm not going to cancel on you, last minute.
Right.
That's kind of something that's different being a nurse versus a nurse practitioner, where someone is coming in and they have an issue, and I'm their fix for it. So I make sure that ahead of time, I'm spending time with my kids. When I'm practicing with my bow, I'm outside. My kids are with me. They have a little bow. They get their bow time too. So they know the process. They're not blinded to what's going on as far as, mom is preparing to go hunt. She's putting time and effort into it so that, she can be successful. Um, yeah, I plan ahead best I can. Um, and thankfully I have a very understanding husband. Yeah, he knew that I was into the outdoors before we were ever dating. And then my parents, them being really close, and then, just being willing to help.
Yeah. No, it takes a village sometimes a little bit.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's also a season in life too, where, because it's only a matter of time before, I mean, you'll blink and the little ones will be they'll be dragging
Yeah.
y'all to the woods.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And I hope for that. And that's why I try not to make it a negative experience and include them best I can, because I,
right.
I do want them to want to go with mom and dad someday.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I know I think it was before we actually hit record, we were talking about that kind of in the while I was getting some settings and stuff ready to go before this episode went live is, one of those things where you just have to be intentional to make it a positive experience for the kids. And that's one thing that I've always tried to do is just I don't want my son to be bored out of his mind going out there or
Mhm.
wondering why we never see anything or stuff because I'm trying to hunt a specific deer or hunt a specific way. And
Mhm.
that'll come later when he understands that sacrifice and what that really looks
Yeah.
like. But I want them to go out there and see deer every hunt. I want them to,
Mhm.
get to have a positive experience that's engaging and for lack of a better term, entertaining because,
Mhm.
that's how they become interested. And then I always, when I have conversations like this, I always use a quote from one of my good friends that I've known for many years. His name's Chester Barnes. And he always said, every one of my kids will know how to hunt. But if they don't ever hunt a day in their life, that's up to them,
Mhm.
basically. Like he's not going to push them to hunt, but he's going to make sure that they know how should they want to. So, and I ever since he told me that, I was like, man, that makes perfect sense, and I think that every parent should apply that. So,
Absolutely. With my youngest, he's extremely active. Of all three of my kids, I call him the feral one. Very always on the move. So for him, whenever I was telling you before we started recording, if I bait, I because we are Arkansas is a bait state, I bait to optimize their experience. It's I'm hunting basically for them so that they have the best chance to see a deer. Because if they're just sitting out there and they see nothing, of course they're going to be bored and they're not going to have that interest. So I took him a lot to bait, but I don't know if I told you this, I got into trapping last year.
oh, cool.
So taking them to check traps, it's active. You don't have to be quiet. They love it. So they would check traps with me a lot because it's something that they can, you know, move around and do, and they can hold it, and
Yeah,
so
that's cool. Very cool. So, and rabbit trails, here I go. But you brought up Arkansas being a bait state. I'm from Texas. We can also bait down here. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've never hunted Arkansas. Do you guys have bears up there?
hmm
So,
yeah.
so educate me a little bit on as a deer hunter, and I mean, I imagine you might also hunt bears for all I know. You can tell me if so, but as a deer hunter, how does that work setting up for baiting whitetails when you're also dealing with bears in your woods?
So where I am, like behind my house, where I have bait, never seen a bear here.
Okay.
Family property that we have about 40 minutes from here, yes, bear on camera. And I don't know that you can necessarily separate it because if the bear finds it, they're going to tear it up and get it.
Hmm.
So I, I personally, that property, other family hunts, they bait. I did not personally bait for my hunting last year. Last year was my first year mobile hunting. Um, I grew up mostly sitting in, a wooden deer stand looking at a corn feeder. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, this no knock to anyone that does that because if you don't have I didn't have the time before to do what I decided to do last year, where I carried a lock on, carried that XOP Rubicon and some climbing sticks. And I'm like, I'm mobile. I'm mostly going to hunt with my bow. And I want to actually build and develop really good woodsmanship and be able to find deer, not because I know they're going to come to this corn pile. So um, I didn't hunt our family land that's got corn feeders invaded. I mostly hunted public, and then a different piece of property that's private. One side I would hunt, the other side baited if the kids went with me.
Yeah. Gotcha. There, I have a lot of respect for that for sure. And I feel like states that can bait, and this is the case down here too, that we get so hung up in just sitting over our stands, sitting over our feeders that to your point, I feel like we lose the art of woodsmanship. I feel like those that hunt out west, those that hunt public land, those are the folks who are far more honed in that area compared to even I would compare it to myself because that's just for the longest time it's what you do. And even now, like I'm trying to figure out where I pivot, because we have a very large property that we hunt. We have feeders, we have stands on it and everything, but it's like, okay, at what point am I pivoting from hunting stands to more of a mobile setup, or hunting more of these trails and stuff, to catch those bucks during the rut and everything? Because the big ones aren't going to come in on those feeders unless just in that area there's, a doe that they're after or something like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's I feel like those that only get honed in on the feeders, and not to knock it either, because I do it. Everybody knows I do it, but it's one of those things that you can't take for granted, because I think that's where true hunters are able to actually be successful, and honestly probably where you're able to shoot some better deer is when you're able to hunt mobile like that and get on those trails. So
I learned a lot doing it that way.
yeah, absolutely. What are some of the things, like, to prioritize your time? What are you personally looking for to influence your decisions on how you're going to mobile hunt?
So I told you I carried a walk on last year, and it was very comfortable, um, but a little heavy.
Yeah.
When I when I do go, I prioritize my time in that, okay, if I'm gonna walk in half to 3/4 of a mile, I'm gonna stay all day. This is my day to hunt this week. Maybe I don't get to go for another week or two. I'm gonna stay all day, so I'm taking in food and water. I have all my gear, and that got heavy. I'm probably about 130 pounds. I was carrying up to 45 pounds, 50 pounds in with me. And this year, I'm going to be using a saddle for the first time. I got one from Timber Ninja, and I think their platform's around 2 pounds, and then their climbing sticks are very lightweight. So my climbing stick weight will be cut in half. My walk on, I think, was a little over 9 pounds, and then with a saddle, that can't be more than 2 or 3 pounds. So I'm cutting out quite a bit of weight
Yeah.
there. That is going to make a big difference for me, I think. Um, Making sure I'm in shape so that it's not miserable when I'm going out there and walking great distances and carrying things. I think that's really important for mobile hunting, but then also just safety in general if you're going to be in the woods by yourself. Um, I make sure that I'm very in tune with my bow. It's ready to go. I have all my equipment lined out because you go out that far and you miss one little thing, you're in trouble,
Oh yeah.
So trying to stay organized. Like right now, my husband and I, we're making sure we have everything in line. I self film my hunts. I started doing that last year, and making sure I have a light pole my husband and my dad installed for me in the backyard, so that I can actually get all my stuff up there and practice. Like, okay, this is where I'm going to hang my backpack. This is where I'm going to hang my bows. This is how my camera's going to be. But then also, again, going back to safety, making sure I'm confident in how I'm using my equipment so
Right.
that I don't fall and have an injury.
Right. Exactly. No, that's huge for sure. What when you are going back in there and spending all this time and everything, what kind of have you done, at least in the area you're hunting, a lot of scouting efforts and everything beforehand, so that or are you taking to the woods and you're gonna see what you can find on the way in?
Um, so my husband sometimes will drop me just a general pin because, again, it's like, do we want to use our childcare so we're both going to scout, or do we separate it and I stay with the kids and he goes and picks out some. He's very good at with his woodsmanship and reading the woods, and he's taught
Yeah.
me quite a bit. Sometimes it's a matter of like, well, this general area is good, and then I'll go in with a headlamp and try to kind of figure out what I'm around and get set up in the dark. Or maybe it's a spot that I've walked by and I pin it myself, based on, it's got good white oak trees and there's a ridge here, figuring out maybe they're bedding over here and this would be a good spot for me. And then going back in again in the dark with my headlamp and, um, based on the wind direction, figuring out how to get into that spot and get set up.
Yeah, gotcha. Very cool. Well, I do want to ask you kind of more specific about equipment and filming equipment that is, and getting into some of that. But before I go kind of more the media route with some parts of our conversation, just out of curiosity, is Arkansas just where your hunting experiences have been for the most part, or have you ventured out to other states, other parts of the country?
I have not. I have not hunted out of state yet.
Awesome.
It's definitely a big goal.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It definitely changes your perspective on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll say that for sure. So it's exciting. Cool. Um, so I guess to start it off, because ultimately how Fall Obsession found your page and everything, and ultimately what led to extending the invite to have you on the show was, we saw one of your reels, which led to your page, and we're always, one of the things that I think is, it's becoming more clear who has it, who doesn't in this industry, and that's authenticity. I feel like there's a lack of authenticity at times in some of the online hunting world, some corners of that, if you will. And we can dive into that a little bit more. But ultimately, I want to start by asking you, it's one thing to be passionate about hunting and passionate about everything that you're doing, getting the family involved, all that kind of stuff. It's a whole nother level, whole nother layer to it, to do it in front of a camera and do it in front of the world on social media. So what led to you wanting to make that push into, being I hate the word influencer. I really do. I don't know of a really better term, honestly, but sharing your experiences online and everything through social media.
I grew up with no other females that hunted really. Um, Ones that, they wouldn't bait their own hook, they wouldn't take a fish off the hook. I was kind of the tomboy weird girl growing up, and it was like either you can be girly or you can be that. And like you don't have to choose.
Hmm.
Maybe there are other females out there that are interested in archery. You don't have to just hunt to shoot a bow. You can do it because it's an art and it's very fun. Um, showing showing that the fun and in archery in and of itself, but then also, hunting is something that I feel social media can put a really good or bad taste in your mouth,
Hmm.
pending who you follow and who you choose to let influence you. Because the word influencer, and I made a post about, um, uh, for the record, I am a hunting influencer.
Hmm.
I had people comment on that and said, I'm not going to follow you anymore because of this post, but you didn't read it. Like you didn't scroll through and read what I was saying and the approach I was going to with that.
Yeah,
Everything you do, everything you see, you have it has an influence.
correct.
Um, I think that too many times social media is used in the industry to intimidate you to think that you have to shoot the biggest buck in order to have a good season. And I hate that.
Yes.
I hate that people are embarrassed to post a picture of a doe that they shot. Because if you do want big bucks, you need a good buck to doe ratio. And I think that too many times on social media, it is all about who is the biggest, who is the baddest, who pulls the most poundage on their bow. No, that's not the intent behind hunting. Hunting is something that God designed for us to feed our families. And how amazing is it that it's fun to do too, you
Yes.
know? But I hate that social media makes you feel like you're not good enough for shooting a basket rack 6 point. If you only get a few hunts, why wouldn't you be proud of that? You know?
Mhm.
So I'm like, I'm nothing special. I'm no one big. But if I can make someone else feel more confident and get into hunting, not that I'm necessarily trying to be a part of the industry. Yes, I do partner with a few um, brands currently, but that's not why I do it. I appreciate being able to do that because kids are expensive, and being able to, get a little cut on cost on some things is nice. But um, I I don't want people to think that you have to have like the biggest deer in the woods in order to be proud of what you did, because
Right.
hunting is hard. And um, learning to hunt, not everyone starts out, not everyone has my background where they grew up hunting. And so if it's your first time to go hunting and you shoot a basket rack 6 point, post it on social media.
Yeah.
Don't worry about these people that have deer farms or secretly hunt high fence and make you think that you're nothing special because you can't compete with them.
Yeah.
I don't like that part of social media. And so I'm like, my page is going to be about how I hunt. You're not gonna come to my page and be very intimidated, I don't think.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's a two-way street too, because it's, we want people to be comfortable sharing their experiences, good, bad, big deer, small deer, on social media. And the flip side of that too is, even and I don't consider myself a trophy hunter. Don't get me wrong. I like to shoot a big buck, same as the next guy, but I hunt for meat ultimately is what I do. And I try to shoot mature deer. My buck tag normally goes to either mature deer or cold deer every year. That's just what it comes down to and everything. But the all is to say, I don't if I see somebody with a basket rack six or a little forky or something like that, I might not know what that person's experience has been like in their life. It might have taken them years to get to the point where they could successfully accomplish that. And
yeah,
you can't knock somebody for doing that. So yeah, everything that you're talking about and everything is exactly what we need more of in the hunting industry. And when we were chatting, as we were setting up this episode, I know that was one thing that kind of got brought up in passing was just, I feel like you're right. Everybody is an influencer, but you're also influenced by the circles that you allow to, right? If you go and you follow all the pages out there, all the hunting shows that are killing, 180 plus inch monsters, then guess what your overall and subconsciously what your perception of hunting is going to become. It's going to become this
absolutely.
this thing. So when that 6 point does pop up in your feed, you're like, oh, look at this guy, or look at this girl. So it's you also I feel like that's not to say don't follow the big names or the big shows or people who shoot big deer, but you got to there's a balance in it. I think that even just for us, if you're going to be involved in the social media world of hunting, you gotta keep yourself grounded in a certain regard too. And that's important. I loved your post where you were doing the Netflix documentary trend. And yeah, I think your caption was something about the, prepping for a documentary where you're able to kill all these animals on your wall with a 52-pound bow instead of a 90-pound bow. And and
Yeah.
and you got quite a few
Oh, people came at me.
quite a few hot comments in the comment section down there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And to speak to that, and people that have been following me for a long time, they laughed it off because they know, for one, I'm not serious. But at the same time, the people that were offended by that, why are you so easily offended?
Hmm.
What you choose to hunt with and how you hunt, your tag, your way. You just like the okayest hunter. I love that he has that approach to it.
Yeah.
If you're doing it ethically and you're proud of what you're shooting, then don't worry about anything else. just,
Yeah.
you know, you shouldn't be able to be so easily upset because someone tries to rage bait you.
Yeah, exactly. No, and
Hmm.
I love you mentioned OKS Hunter. I love what those guys are doing over there and what Eric's
Yeah.
doing. We had Eric on the show a few episodes ago, actually, and yeah, he's just he's a good example, I feel like, of somebody who is doing everything the right way, and he's getting to a point now where he has the reach, the following, and the influence comparable to some of these other folks in the industry who are out there shooting big deer. And we need more people like that. We need more people who are going about it the right way and building a strong following and sharing the message and not changing the way that they
Yes,
think or they approach things just based off of, popularity, basically. The,
absolutely.
the hunting public is another good group of folks that has been influential in just sharing your experiences, just however they may come. And of course, those
Yeah.
guys are able to do it in a very professional, like very well done and attractive way when it comes to, the filmography and the production quality and everything, which that's the other part that just kills me is, with social media, attention spans are so short right now that,
Hmm.
you got to be able to capture somebody pretty much immediately with whatever you're putting out there. And if you can't, you're gonna lose them, unfortunately. So
Yes.
that's what I think as creators or influencers on social media, constantly fighting that battle, it seems like. So
Yeah. And to speak to that, a lot of people are like, well, the trending thing now is girls noodling or, going in and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not trying to be trending. I'm not trying to
yeah,
trend.
I'm gonna be who I
I'm
am.
I'm being myself. I'm not going to pretend to be something just because it's a trend. For one, I will never stick my arm in a wet hole in a lake and hope something bites it. Not me, my profession, I need all my fingers, but I'm not trying to do something because it's trending. And I think that um, a lot of times when my stuff does pop up and people, roll their eyes at it or make a negative comment to it, they assume that I'm doing this as a trend, archery, hunting. And I'm like, no, no, I've been doing this for a while. I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't be doing if I weren't on camera. I'm
Hmm.
not doing anything. I'm not going to do anything to build a false audience either.
Right.
Um, One thing you brought up, the hunting public, my husband is big into watching real people on YouTube. And I told him, I want to self-film my hunts. This was last year. And he was like, okay, well, you need to watch this show. The very first episode that pops up, I think it was Warb. He shot a buck and it's a 45-minute episode. And they do a very good job at keeping you engaged.
Yes, they do.
But in this episode, he wasn't able to find the deer. They bring in a dog and the deer's still alive. And I'm like, they posted a video of, uh, of them not being able to recover a deer. Got this. So I'm like, I literally the next week had a deer I couldn't recover. And I'm like, dang it, I have to post.
Yeah.
I have to post it because they gave me the confidence to try to self film. And then I can't I can't just leave this out. And that video I sent you on my YouTube channel, that's the biggest buck I've ever shot. Even with rifle hunting, that was my biggest one. And I learned so much from having that on film. That hunt, my husband again had sent me like a pin just in that general vicinity. This is probably where you should go. And he went like almost a mile the other direction. And I got my lock on up a tree and got set up. And as soon as the sun came up, I had one tiny shooting lane. I can't stay here. This is an all day sit. I'm not going to waste it. Get all
Yeah.
my stuff down, go up a little bit further on the ridge, get set up, stay there for a few hours, see a doe. Okay, I got to move. Like I did a little bit more scouting, relocated, found a white oak bed, and maybe assumed kind of where they were bedding and set up based on the wind. And so moved my walk on 3 times that hunt and got set up and a doe was behind me and she was kind of trotting. So I thought maybe it was the end last week of October. I thought maybe a buck was behind her. So I grunted to see if I could pull something off of her. And he came in front of me. Um, I was able to whip my camera around. I had just figured my camera set up for that sit too, like 5 minutes before it happened. Whip my camera around and I had my direct call in my mouth and I turned. I thought he had stopped because it happened so quickly. He took a half step forward as soon as I released my arrow. So my exit ended up being gut. My entrance was about 4 inches back from where I wanted it. And I learned so much from that.
Yeah.
And I respected the hunting public. And I've watched several of their episodes. They have to bring in dogs all the time. Um, but I learned from some of their mistakes, and I hope someone else can learn from some of the mistakes that I make because that to me makes you real. And I just want to come across as real.
Yeah.
Not I'm not a better hunter than anyone else. That's not why I post my content. Um, I want to be real and make other people feel like I can do it too.
Yeah. I feel like that's what people feel like more and more people crave that. I feel like people want the relatability to their own experiences and stuff like that. And even I had a conversation last week in my episode with my guest who's also a content creator, um, just about how hunters are very good at sniffing out the folks who are inauthentic, or now there's also AI that's, working its way in
Yeah.
the hunting industry, which I don't think I think AI is a useful tool for certain things, but I think as far as some stuff in the hunting industry, it's going to have a hard go of replacing anything. And hunters, your clientele in that industry is a group of people who are probably going to be quick to realize that this is not real. So, but that's beside the point. I respect anybody that can share those authentic and raw stories like that because that's part of hunting, and that's what we all face. I mentioned to you earlier when we were setting everything up around when you sent me that video of your buck. It's like, yeah, in 23, I also lost a nice buck, and he would have been my best buck with a bow for sure. But it was one of those deals, prime rut, and he came into the clearing I was hunting on a doe, and he wasn't staying. He was on the backside, and I drew back, and I gave him the old classic textbook Mac to get him to stop, and he turns and looks at me, and I didn't have time to range it, and I knew that trail that he was on, that spot, I had ballpark idea what it was. I was like at 45. And I shot, I hit him high, no man's land. He took off and ran away with my arrow. And I just was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I realized that when I ranged the spot he was at, he's actually like 41, 42. So I was a little bit off on my guesstimation. And then I had just watched a video where a very experienced bow hunter was talking about how he always has a bad habit of hovering like above his target a little bit or too high. And he's like, on deer, I want to hold a little bit lower. So he goes, I always come up from the bottom into my target zone instead of coming down from the top. And for years, I had always come down from the top. And I watched that video. I was like, you know what? I need to try that. I need to do that. And I worked on the range. And then this was the first opportunity I had to draw back on an animal, with that mentality. And what did I do? I came down from the top, just like I always had, and I could argue that I didn't really hadn't had the time, honestly, to put in on that, to kind of retrain my muscle memory a little bit. And that's the other part that comes down to, some shots like that. But yeah, you live and you learn, and I felt pretty sick to my stomach, and I had a mule deer hunt coming up in Colorado 2 weeks later, and I went into that with a lot of nerves because now I was like, well, I can't make a shot on a Texas whitetail. How am I going to shoot a mule deer with a bow? And the good Lord has a way of showing us stuff and bringing us back out of our slumps because I shot a mule deer buck at 28 yards with a killer shot and got some confidence back after that, and sometimes that's what it takes for any hunter out there just to kind of get back into it. So I digress and get off on my rabbit
Yeah.
trails, but yeah,
No, you're
it's
good.
it's very The authenticity part definitely has a there's a need for it. We need more of that, and we need more creators who, like to your point, aren't going with what's popular, what's trendy, what will get the follows and the likes, but what's true out there and what people need to hear. So yeah, we definitely need that. How long have you had your page? How long have you been doing it?
Um, so I started my YouTube channel September 3rd of last year. I
Okay.
started posting on Instagram about the same time. And then I initially started on TikTok, and I started about a year ago right now.
Okay.
Um, that's when I started trying to figure out reels and what works and all of that. It's it's
Yeah.
it's been an adventure. You can ask my husband. He's like, she has every single thing that she could possibly stick her phone in to hold it, and she's still not satisfied with it. So I'm always trying to tinker with that because the slightest little thing can mess up your your shot, like video shot. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and social media is just constantly changing and stuff. Like, I mean, I dove into that with my guest last week about how just like weekly Instagram's changing algorithms and stuff like that. And it's just it make at least for a blue collar hunter, it makes it pretty hard to keep up with sometimes,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just a constant battle that we're having to fight to put it out in there. And then you got platforms like TikTok that, you know, I've literally had to do two edits on a project before, multiple times, where, okay, this is the version that's going on Facebook and Instagram and
Hmm.
YouTube, and this is the version that's going on TikTok. Just
Yes.
because I hate that TikTok is going to have a problem with all the little nitpicky stuff when it comes to
Hmm.
hunting and what you're showing in your videos in regard to animals and that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
at the same, I want to just throw it out there and just see what happens. But I also know that the page won't be doing any good for anybody if it gets taken down because of it. So you gotta
Hmm.
tiptoe around that stuff too, which is
Yeah,
frustrating.
it's very frustrating and it's very hard. I don't do as much on TikTok as I used to. If I do get on TikTok, I I do go live shooting my bow. I
Nice.
have my page has been whitelisted so that I've proven that it's for educational purposes and things. I'll get on there and talk about my bow and shoot, and I've promised them I will not shoot an animal live, and um, so I do that because I can have 3 to 5 thousand people watch me, and then I'll get a ton of messages. Hey, I got a bow. You made it look so fun. I love that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about right
Um,
there.
as far as the figuring out the Instagram algorithm, I haven't yet. Occasionally I'll have something pop off, but I don't have time to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it comes down to time and commitment with it too, to a certain extent. So what's your self-filming setup for hunting look like right now?
so last year it was one DJI. That's it. Sometimes my phone, pending what was coming into view. This year I'll have my DJI for like point of view, like I'll just be talking to it. And then I just got a camera arm for, I think it's a Canon. I haven't used it yet. I've got to start practicing with it, but that way I can get that zoom in. It's 4K, and I can actually see deer in the distance. I like the DJI, um, but it's like you can only zoom once, and it's not the best for actually getting a crisp shot on video
Right.
or watching, deer walk through the woods and get closer to you. It's just like a one view type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so the video I sent you of the deer I shot, that was a DJI.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So,
So what has that been like for you as far as just the learning experience behind self-filming and that kind of stuff? Because you said last year was your first year
mhm.
doing that. So going from all these years of hunting and bow hunting as you know it, and now incorporating a camera into it. And the reason I ask is because not just for my own curiosity, but I know that we have a lot of listeners in our listener base that, do self-film and or are aspiring to do that. So what has it been like for you as far as learning how to hunt with a camera now?
It was really hard in the beginning. I put more pressure on it slash myself than I should have. Um, I promised myself from the beginning that when I'm deer hunting or any kind of hunting, I will not sacrifice a good shot or a shot period just to have it on camera because my true intention out there is the hunt as safe and ethically as possible.
Yeah.
If I'm able to whip the camera around or have it set up correctly so that I can actually get it on film, great. So that pressure was relieved in that I know if my camera isn't turned on and it's not cued right, but I have the best shot on a deer, I'm just going to shoot and then I'm going to tell the camera what happened because you know what? My YouTube channel isn't paying a single bill anyways. So, so I set that goal that I had that mindset from the beginning. Also, to anyone else listening, just know that if you do anything stupid on video, you can edit it out because it's not live. So
Yeah,
I,
you say as we're live.
yeah. Um, so if you word something wrong, just refilm it. Um, or if you end up not liking it, just crop that little piece out.
Yeah.
I look at my camera and I talk to him like it's me teaching my kids or talking to one of my friends. I don't look at it as the world is watching me. There's a company watching me. It's not about that because sometimes my kids will wake up and they'll be like, "Can we watch Mama Hunt?" Like instead of cartoons, they want to watch my YouTube channel. So I try to make it fun. Sometimes I try to be funny and I'm not very good at it because again, like the hunting public, they're silly and funny, but there's more than one person.
Yeah.
Um, so it's honestly it's just trial and error. Just do it. The main thing is just do it. You're gonna have glitches, you're gonna have failures from it, but sometimes and like with hunting and archery, that's how you learn is, oh, this didn't work. I'm gonna do this differently because
Yeah.
what works for me isn't gonna work for you or work for someone that's in an entirely different state.
Mhm.
It so
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100% like it's a balance between education and entertainment that you're looking to accomplish. But again, it goes back to yes, you want to be yourself. I've always thought of it like when I'm talking to the camera, I just imagine I'm hunting with a buddy. Like that's the lens that I've at least the mindset I always put myself in. Like if I had a dude sitting here in this tree with me right now, what would we be talking about? What would I be saying to him right now about this situation or whatever it might be? So that's what I've always tried to do. And yeah, when you do get more people involved in everything, I feel like that's when those humorous moments that maybe you are able to capture on film, they can kind of be in there. We had one in our show Texas Dirt a few years ago where my buddy Nick, he traded in his pickup truck for a Prius to get better gas mileage. And of course we gave him all sorts of crap about that. But then I told him, I said, I'm gonna have my truck out there at the lease and you're gonna kill a deer and I'm gonna make you have to live with this decision of not having a truck anymore. I was like, you're gonna have to take that deer to town on your Prius. He's like, all right, I'll do it. And by golly, that's exactly what happened. And we filmed the whole thing. It actually, because our show streams on Carbon TV, it was nominated for the most comedic show moment that year. We didn't end up winning. We were
that's
finalists, but still,
awesome.
I was okay, that's just genuinely us kind of giving each other a hard time and having fun and everything. And it goes to show that people appreciate that, people value that. So,
Yeah.
that's it. You have to be able to you have to be able to be yourself and just show how hunting really is in the real
Yeah.
world. That's what it comes down to when you're
Like
filming.
it,
So
like it's truly not that serious. It's something that you're doing because you enjoy it.
yeah,
So show that you enjoy it.
yeah,
I do. There were learning moments that I had as I was trying to really sharpen my woodsmanship. And when I watch the hunting public, there are things that they would point out that made them pick their spot. So then I'm like, okay, what if a new hunter is watching me?
hmm
How can I help them understand why I chose this spot? So that is another approach that I do talk about as I'm talking about my setup and
yeah,
why I'm sitting here versus here another location, or why understanding different trees is important because some are feed trees and you really like those feed trees. And if you know where the does are, then you're going to find your bucks too.
hmm yeah. Yeah, I was happy to hear you say that you'll shoot a deer before you worry about the camera shot too, because I am the same way as well. And most of the people I talk to or that I spend some time with, they share that mentality. I have had one guest on the show, um, uh, and I mean I'll share her name, Melissa Bachman. She was on the show a while ago, and we were talking because she does it for a living, right, and everything, and she had the opposite mentality because I asked her that question. She goes, "No, she goes, I kind of have to wait for the shot and everything like that. This is my living." And I was like, okay, well that makes sense. I can understand it in that regard, I guess, but. Man, I've seen those shows. I've seen those shows where the hunter's ready and the cameraman's like, "No, I don't have it. I don't have it." And they let the deer walk. I'm like, dude, you can't do
Yeah.
that. You might
No,
never see that
no.
deer again. I can't do that. I couldn't
Yeah.
stand that. And most people couldn't
Yeah.
either. And that I think that people understand that. Like when if the camera suddenly cuts to you blood trailing her down out of your stand, whatever, they understand why. Like
Yeah.
everybody watching would probably do the same thing. So
Yeah. So the buck that I shot and didn't find, I got that on camera. The my first public land buck that I killed last year, I had my lock on set facing a field. And that afternoon, another hunter sat on the ground, like I'm in a tree, clearly, climbed it, lock on in it, effort made. And someone sits 50 yards from where I'm sitting. And I'm like, hey, can you move? It's public land. So I text my husband. He's like, do you want me to come over there? No, no, I don't. Just understand anything that's legal is going down
yeah,
as soon as it can. And I had my camera to my left, and that the buck that I shot came out 15 yards from it. I knew if I risked like reaching over and touching my camera, I'm gonna spook that deer. I'm not gonna
yeah,
shoot it. And I wanted that deer. So
yeah.
that's what it boiled down to. I hope um some people think, you're doing this to try to make it big. No, no, I'm really not. Um I hope that there are more doors open, like talking about hunting out of state and having different opportunities and meeting new people. I hope that happens, but I also hope I never am put in a situation where the camera comes before my hunt
Right.
and why I'm really out there.
Yeah. So that kind of segues into a question I did have for you, and I mean you touched on it already right there, but just where you do want to see this thing go, and what your longer term goals with it look like.
I wouldn't say that I necessarily have an end goal. I enjoy what I'm doing. I don't want to name drop, but I have communicated with and sort of built somewhat of a relationship with some bigger people that have invited me to have some hunting opportunities, um, not for deer, um, but I hope different things like that. Most of the people that I follow, almost all of them, are people that like there are some younger girls that I follow and communicate with, but I want to follow people that I learn from. Um, for example, during turkey season, I that was my first time to actually turkey hunt and pursue turkey hunting, and I would listen to people that just straight up get on camera and be like, okay, this is why I would or wouldn't use this sequence. This is where I'm going to go look for birds. This is how I'm going to roost birds, blah, blah, blah. I follow those types of people. I hope someday I can be that for someone else and maybe have a property someday where I can bring them on and hunt with them and teach them. Um, but I wouldn't say that I necessarily have like an end goal where I want to quit my job and travel the world hunting. Like
Right.
I don't have that. I don't think that that is even realistic. But if I can help people break out of this social media mindset just a little bit of it has to be the biggest, the best, and perfect, then that's really all that I'd be happy with my content.
Yeah, if you have I'm of the opinion that if anybody out there doing what you're doing has a positive influence on just somebody, one person,
Yeah,
anybody, small group of people, then I think that it's been worth it. Whether you're getting somebody into hunting, you're changing somebody's mindset or perspective of hunting, whatever it might look like.
yeah.
That's what it's all about, in my opinion. So,
I keep a tally, and it's so silly. I keep a tally on messages I've gotten where people say, I've been watching you and I got a bow. And that to me, like that, that's pretty special.
yeah,
So I like that. And if that's all if that's it, then that's fine.
yeah,
So
that's awesome. What's your archery setup currently?
so I currently am shooting a Matthews Lift RS. I have you could guess a 52-pound draw weight. I think uh 27 inch, yeah, 27-inch draw length. Um, I use a True Ball index release. I have Cooley arrows, but I also have the Easton 5.0s. Easton 5.0s is what I've been hunting with.
Hmm.
I shot a doe, that buck that I couldn't find, and then I shot several squirrels with my bow too last year. My bow was a surprise from a follower.
Oh, wow.
When I first started with my content, I was shooting my old Hoyt Ultramag. Yeah, Ultramag.
Hmm.
It came out in 2005.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't of the social media mindset, I didn't think anyone would notice, which was really dumb because even now I can tell you if your bow's up to date because I I can pay attention to that a lot more. I've nerded out quite a bit more on
Yeah,
archery
the archery nerds pick
because
up
of
pretty
it
quick.
too. Yeah. So this follower emailed me and was like, "Hey, why is your bow so old?" I'm like, "It works. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, you know." And I guess he owned a bow shop, and he was just like, "Hey, give me an address you're comfortable receiving something in the mail. I would like to contribute to your content because I have a daughter, and you're someone that I would want her to grow up watching." And it's like, "Oh my gosh, that
That's
that means a
awesome.
lot." And I thought, maybe he was going to send me like a new release because my release, I've had it as long as I had that bow. And it was everything that you could possibly need for a bow.
Whole
Um,
rig. Wow.
yeah, the whole thing. And he's just like, and he wrote a letter and he's just like, I just want you to be able to keep up with everyone else. So you need a bow that is just a little bit faster and a little bit more up to date. And I really hope I'm able to smoke some deer with it this
Yeah,
fall.
that's
I'll
awesome.
be urban hunting. I got qualified for that.
Okay.
So I'll have unlimited tags urban wise, no antler restrictions.
Okay.
So
And not to keep getting off on stuff because I do know we're getting close to our time and everything, and I don't want to drag it out too much, but you piqued my interest with that. What is urban hunting in your area? What's that look like?
so there are, I believe, 6 cities in Arkansas that are designated. that are overpopulated with deer. You know, someone's flower bed keeps getting eaten, and basically you like seek one, you go knock on the door and you say, hey, I'm with you get qualified and you're a member of ABA, Arkansas Bowhunters Association. And they, can I sit in your backyard and shoot deer,
Wow.
basically. So there's one spot you don't need permission. It's designated for urban hunters. The rest you need permission from the landowner.
Yeah.
And you have unlimited tags and no antler restrictions because they want deer out of there so bad. It's really neat because agreeing to urban hunt, you take a course, you take a test, you prove that you are good with your weapon, but you also agree to donate your first deer to Hunters for the Hungry, and
Okay.
they make snack sticks with the meat and feed homeless. And I think 20,000 pounds was donated last year,
Wow.
and in feeding people. So that's something I'm really proud to be a part of. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. So if a spike walks out, I'm smoking it. Like, I'm not, and I'm gonna post it. And you just get
Yeah.
ready for all the or all the people in the comments. I don't care.
Yeah. The
But
keyboard
yeah,
warriors will fire up.
yeah.
That's awesome. No, that'd be a really cool experience. That's awesome. I'm sure that there's more opportunities like that around the country than some folks realize, but that's cool that that's tied to y'all's, State Bowhunter Association and everything, if they're
Hmm.
able to accomplish something like that. That's really neat.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Very cool. Last question I have for you, just based on something we've already talked, and then we'll start wrapping this one up. I wanted to ask you, we already talked about kind of the filming side of, your what you're getting into and everything right now, those longer form filming your hunts, putting on YouTube. But I hadn't asked you about the editing side yet. How's that been for you, and what are you learning there?
I'm learning that editing makes such a difference. You don't realize it until you watch someone else's video and you're sitting down with your own footage and it's raw. I've been using CapCut and I'm getting to where I don't like it. It's not as user friendly as I had hoped. So I'm looking for something else for this fall. Um, I like how people are able to pull up a box, add a picture, because sometimes, you are whispering to the camera and um, maybe you forgot to turn your mic on and you really want to highlight what you're saying because it's really important for whatever's about to happen. So editing, I will say, is probably my biggest hurdle because I don't really have a lot of experience with it until this last year. But then also time wise with my kids want to sit in my lap and, oh, let me help, or oh, go back, I want to watch that again, and that gets really difficult. So
It's time consuming. Editing already is time consuming, and yeah,
it
you
is.
you, you throw that in there too, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it obviously makes it a little bit longer for sure. Editing is something I think that you definitely learn as you go. And we've been editing for a long time over here. We're self-taught for the most part, taking a few small classes here and there just to brush up on some stuff. But I think one thing that I love and I hate is that now whenever I watch somebody else's show, I have a habit of watching it through the lens of an editor. And that's a good thing from the standpoint of I'm thinking about what they're doing, how they're using their audio when they're cutting from
Hmm.
one clip to another. I'm cognizant of that, but then I realize that I'm not enjoying the show that I'm watching
Hmm.
anymore. I'm not enjoying the
Yeah,
hunt that's in front of me. I'm looking at it from a production standpoint. So I think that it just comes down, like, you can learn a lot from watching other people's shows. But sometimes you gotta consciously take off the producer mind, the producer hat,
yes,
and sit there and just enjoy a hunting show every now and then. So
yes,
that's my encouragement to anybody who's getting into the editing game is don't forget to just enjoy watching hunts sometimes. So
absolutely. Yeah. It's that's honestly probably one of the harder parts than actually just filming it itself because sometimes the hunt, especially if there's a lot of activity, it'll just unfold in front of you.
yeah.
it's sitting down and making like you were talking about earlier, catching someone's attention from the beginning because our minds are so programmed to just scroll, scroll, scroll,
Yeah.
scroll, scroll. So how do you get someone's attention and stop and make them interested? Because sometimes hunting is a lot of sitting and waiting,
Yeah.
and they maybe can't see what you see, so you're explaining it. And yeah.
Yeah. How do you convey exactly what you felt during that hunt, whether it's how much effort went into it, how long you were there, another factor? How do you make the viewer feel that and at the same time also keep them engaged and interested, right? That's a constant balance and everything. And yeah, definitely takes a lot of patience and time sitting in front of a computer editing it. That's one of my most frustrating things because I went on elk hunt a couple years ago and I was filming the whole thing for everybody, including myself. And I'm like, yeah, this shot's gonna be great for this. Like I'm almost editing it in my mind as I'm on the hunt, and then I sit down. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I have all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and I gotta condense it down to a 30-minute film. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. If I have people that do follow my YouTube channel and they'll message me and they'll be like, you get so excited after you shoot that it's a like I feel what you feel because my dad, especially after I shot, my dad was with me when I shot my first turkey. He's like, you can't cry and get that excited. And I'm like, yes, I can because it's real. I'm not gonna like I tried so hard. I jumped into a creek bank up to my rear end in water chasing turkeys. And I finally shot one and got one. Oh, I'm stoked because I practiced from December through May in my truck driving to work, you know, working on my turkey calling and
yeah.
yeah, I was that excited. And it's not faked. And the shakes, you cannot fake the shakes, oh my
No,
word.
no, and
So
people pick up on that. You can tell, like. It always bugs me, and I'm not trying to knock anybody, but it bugs me whenever somebody like they shoot a deer or something like that, but it's, end of shooting light, whatever it might be, low light, and you can tell that they went back the next day to film the reaction, to film all the stuff in the stand, and it just doesn't seem sincere. It drives me insane. It's like,
no,
dude,
yeah,
I don't care. I'll listen to your excitement. I don't care that it's dark or turn a flashlight on. Like, come on. Like,
yes, exactly.
don't try to put on a show. So,
Yeah, yeah. I
well,
always unsub, unfollow fake every time.
yeah. Yeah, we need authenticity for sure. Well, Kayla, what have we missed? I got a few questions just that I ask every first time guest on the show to wrap it up, but is there anything that we've missed, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we head for the end here?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Well, good. Glad that we were able to get to everything we needed to. So these questions, we used to call them a rapid fire questions. They're not rapid
Hmm.
fire because, again, rabbit trails, they exist around here at Fall Obsession Podcast. But just a few questions I like to ask every first time guest on the show. The first one, very simple, but sometimes can lead to some discussion. You can only pick one, gun or bow.
Both.
Bow. I love it. Why?
I feel more connected to the hunt. It's more me. My dad always taught me when you are bow hunting, if there's an error, it's 90% of it is you. Like it's on you. So I feel more connected to the hunt because of that. The animal usually has to be closer. Um, you use, in my mind, more woodsmanship to get that close to the animal.
Yeah.
And for me, in the stage of hunting that I'm able to do because I love it, but also I dedicate the time for it, that is my choice
Gotcha.
every time.
Very cool. I love it. I agree with a lot of that for sure. Next question. I know you, toward the beginning of the episode, you shared a couple of favorite hunting memories from your earlier days hunting and everything. But normally I ask folks for to share one of their most memorable moments hunting. And I don't know, there might be another one from way back then, or maybe you have one from earlier years. But what's another memorable hunt that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Um, ooh. Honestly, every deer that I've shot with my bow sticks out in my mind um, way more than when I've been rifle hunting. Um, I took a break for a while because of babies and nurse practitioner school. So last year, getting really dedicated back into bow hunting, it's just I shot a small doe, and then even though I didn't end up finding the buck that I shot with my bow, um, that hunt was very memorable for me. That season was very memorable because um, the two bucks that I did shoot last year were not baited. They were on public land. I had to actually hunt them.
Yeah.
I didn't have cameras out. And then the doe that I shot last year with my bow and killed, um, that was my first bow kill in 9 or 10 years. So that just last season, I would say, was very memorable for me because I learned a lot by using my skills or lack thereof to hunt,
Very
if that
cool.
makes any sense.
No,
Yeah.
absolute sense for sure. That's a very good answer. Last question. Everybody has a bucket list. Places they
Yeah.
want to go, animals they want to hunt. What's at the top of yours?
Yeah. So, my top three, I would say elk, bear, and muley, all with bow.
Elk, bear, and muley. Very cool.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, those are any location specifically or just the opportunity to do it.
Opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah. Those opportunities do come for sure. And sometimes it can be, speaking from my own experience, it can be exhausting sometimes, trying to grow a brand or just manage a presence in the hunting industry, whatever it might be. But I have had some awesome non-resident opportunities over the years, and none of them would have been a thing without the relationships that I've built through the Fall Obsession platform and everything. So yeah, I know you said you've already got some invitations coming your way and stuff, and take advantage of them. It
For
sucks
sure.
when you can't take them all sometimes. Like I've
Yeah.
had seasons where it's like, dude, I can't do all of this. I want to, but I can't.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
it's
hope to have that problem someday.
I'm not trying to make it sound like I got all these awesome opportunities in front of me, but they do come, and there's some pretty cool stuff. So I trust that you're gonna have the opportunity to cross those off probably sooner rather than later. That'd be awesome.
Thank you. I hope so. Hope so.
Well, Kayla, I appreciate you spending an hour plus with us here on Fall Obsession Podcast today. I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope our listeners got something out of it and everything. Tell them where they can find you on social media and where they can follow along.
Um, I have TikTok. I'm not very cool on there because they don't allow very many cool things. So I would say YouTube, it's fit2hunt underscore KH, and then Instagram is fit2hunt, and it's not 2TO, it's the number two, fit2hunt underscore KH.
Awesome. Very cool. What was the inspiration behind that name? I meant to ask earlier.
Um, so a lot of people assume it's exclusively fitness, the fit part, because I did have a fitness transformation over the last couple years. Mobile hunting, I knew I would need to have some strength to do it by myself because there are times I'm a couple hours away from help because I'm literally in the middle of nowhere solo. But it's also, you know, just because I'm not the best and I don't kill the biggest deer, I fit the hunting standard too.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that. It's a good name for sure. Well,
thank you.
folks, go follow along with Kayla's pages and everything that she's got going on, and make sure that you show her some support over there. Always appreciate that. Kayla, thank you again for joining us this week. I'm grateful for this conversation and you accepting the invite. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks for listening. Subscribe if you hadn't already. I will be back with y'all again next week for another Fall Obsession podcast. We'll catch you then.